VestGen Wealth Partners, Sunday morning at 10 on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I didn't like it when he did it with Intel, and I don't like what he's contemplating doing with Spirit Airlines. President Trump blurring the lines between the public and the private. In other words, the government should not attempt to operate like a private equity fund. And so I think the path he's contemplating with Spirit Airlines, as he described yesterday in Q&A with the D.C. gaggle, is a injudicious one.
Is the government going to buy a stake in Spirit Airlines?
So Spirit is an airline that's had some trouble. They were going to merge with People Express, or one of them, a number of years ago, and Barack Hussein Obama decided it was a bad idea. How did that work out? It's bad for both of them. That would have been a natural merger. Not United and American, but Spirit and the other. We're looking at helping them. We have 18,000 people that live in this country that are great people and great employees, and we're thinking about doing it, helping them out, and meaning bailing them out or buying it. I think we just buy it. We'd be getting it virtually debt-free. They have some good aircraft, they have good assets, and when the price of oil goes down, we'll sell it for a profit. I'd love to be able to save those jobs. I'd love to be able to save an airline. I like having a lot of airlines, so it's competitive. So we are looking at Spirit. It's in a bankruptcy. It's in bankruptcy court, and we're looking if we could get it for the right price. I'd do it to save the jobs, and we have somebody that wants to run it, do a good job, smart person. And if they run it properly and if prices come down, all of a sudden it's a valuable asset. And they have some very good slots.
Yeah, I remember Terry McAuliffe pitching the same line of bull jive about Solyndra. For more on this and other matters economic, please be joined by Stephen Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Art Laffer. What would Art Laffer think of this? The same thing I do, the same thing Steve Moore does, I'm sure, Steve.
Good morning. Well, you're saying you don't want an Amtrak of the skies?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's good. I like that branding.
It really works well.
Yeah.
Look, this is obviously everything you said is correct. We don't want the government running industries. We don't want corporate welfare, and we don't want federal money going to private companies. And so, but there is a bit of an asterisk here, and Trump didn't have the story exactly right in that little segment you played from him. So basically, the real villain there's two villains, the guys I call the killer bees, Biden, and remember Pete Buttigieg? Remember him?
Sure. Yes.
He was the transportation secretary.
Yes.
For Biden, and he had two very good qualifications. One was he rode his bike to work allegedly,
yes.
And the other is he's gay, and that made him very qualified for the nation's transportation system.
Yep.
And so anyway, one of his major decisions was that the reason that Spirit is in bankruptcy today is that 3 years ago, Spirit was going to merge not with Peoples, it was going to merge with JetBlue, right?
Yeah.
And so at that time, JetBlue was the fifth largest carrier. So you've got basically American, United, Delta, Southwest were the big four, right? And then you had the fifth largest was JetBlue, and the sixth largest was Spirit. And so if Spirit and JetBlue had combined, they would. Are you ready? Are you sitting down, Dan? They would have had a whole 9% of the market.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so these idiots, lunatics, crazy people in the Biden administration, they blocked the merger. They said, no, you're going to be a monopoly with 9%.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's laughable. Right?
Yeah.
And so instead of, and by the way, this would have enhanced competition because instead of the big four, now you would have had a fifth major competitor in the market. So it would have actually, brought down prices. But these idiots love to regulate, so they basically canceled the merger, and therefore you've got a company now that is in bankruptcy with 18,000 jobs that are going to be lost. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Pete Buttigieg. So now,
although not all those jobs are going to be lost. I mean, they're bankruptcy. They're going to reorganize,
of course, the assets will be bought up by other airlines, and some of those workers will go work for the. But the point is, this is going to make American, United, Delta, and Southwest even stronger, which is ironic because the reason that they blocked the merger was to try to reduce concentration in the industry.
Right.
So let me put it like this: the shareholders of Spirit and the workers have a case that we got screwed by the government, and they did. They did get screwed by the Biden administration. Now, that does not justify. That certainly does not justify a federal takeover. So I just wanted to make that clear. But, look, it worked with Solyndra, and it worked with solar energy, and it worked with Amtrak. And look at the Postal Service. Look how efficient they are. So having the government run an institution like this is going to be fine, Dan. The
only way I could even conceive that the flying experience in Spirit Airlines would be worse than it is currently is if the government owned it.
Well, but Trump is actually talking about the government not just taking a stake in it, but taking over possibly ownership of the and then selling.
Yeah.
It. Who knows exactly what he means? And look, I'm very pro-Trump. I like the guy, but on this kind of thing, I think it's a bridge too far.
I got some good news to report. I don't get to do that too much. I mean, it's modest good news. It's like another catastrophe that was about to happen hasn't happened yet. That's what constitutes good news in Illinois, which is the millionaire surcharge that the neo-Marxists in the Illinois General Assembly are trying to get through has stalled in the House for now. They're not done yet, but it's stalled for now.
Did they want to raise the tax by?
I think
5% was it?
I think it's a 3% kicker on top of the 4.95.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but you got to catch up with the other blue states. They're at 9 and 10 and 12, 14%. Maine just raised their income. I mean, it's a race to the. I don't know if I should call it the race to the bottom or the top. But they're in a race to see who can squash the risk the most. And of course, they're not in New York and California and Illinois and Maine anymore.
Well,
they don't live there anymore. But it is. I was just writing a column on this. They can't stop themselves. They're so these blue states and cities are so run by radicals that even though a lot of them will even admit that this is going to lead to a lot of people leaving, they still will do it. They don't care.
Well, there's no
symbolism.
No question, and you want to play the boogeyman game with so I don't know, somebody like Ken Griffin. You better be careful. Of course.
Zoran, by the way, did you see that he may not? He's
exactly.
Cancel this $10 billion. I forget the price tag, but it's $1 billion. And say maybe we won't build that in downtown Manhattan. Maybe we'll build it in maybe Miami.
Well, just to refresh people's recollection, Mamdani specifically targeted Ken Griffin in his video. Calling for this pied-à-terre tax.
The video where he looked like the Joker in the Batman movie. He's staring right in the camera. It was that kind of freaky.
Yeah, here's what he said.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax.
So excited about it.
The first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate but who don't actually live here. But even so, they're able to reap the huge financial rewards of owning property in, dare I say, the greatest city in the world. And most of the time, these units are sitting empty, since again, they don't actually live here. This is a fundamentally unfair system that hurts working New Yorkers. Now, it's coming to an end. This tax will raise at least $500 million directly for the city. It'll help fund things like free childcare, cleaner streets, and safer neighborhoods. As mayor, I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others. Happy Tax Day, New York.
Well, yeah. So
you have an.
Well, wait. So here's Ken Griffin's response. Ken Griffin, well, through his his chief operating officer, Gerald Beeson. We're about to commence the redevelopment of 350 Park Avenue, creating 6,000 highly paid construction jobs and supporting the creation of more than 15,000 permanent jobs in Midtown New York. The project, if we move forward, will entail more than $6 billion of spending. Right. The emphasis on if we move forward, Steve.
Exactly. I mean, as I said, they may end up building that building in Miami. I don't know if you've been to Miami lately, but my God, it does look like the skyline looks like New York now, city. So, look, I mean, these people are getting crazier and crazier. Pretty soon they're going to be hanging these rich people in the town square.
Well, it's funny you say that because this podcast, this New York Times podcast that and the topic that has gotten a lot of attention. It features this gruesome person, Hassan Piker, who is apparently.
I think I did see this.
Yes, a cause celeb on the for young neo-Marxists apparently, yes. And it's the rich. The topic: the rich don't play by the rules, so why should we?
Steal from the rich. Steal from them.
Steal from the rich. Yeah. Number one. Right. And also assassinate people that you decree as guilty of social murder, like the United Healthcare CEO.
Wow, I mean that's pretty frightening, and that's how this kind of anti-rich movement has escalated. By the way, I think I heard the story before, but when Ken Griffin was in Chicago, and the city finally drove him away. Not only did he take all the jobs with him, and not only did he take the tax revenue with him, but he was you know this, Dan, because we've talked about it before. He was the single largest contributor to charities in the entire state of Illinois. And so now the charities are like, what happened to all that Ken Griffin money, for the homeless shelters and for the museums and the opera and all that money? No, he doesn't live here anymore. You drove him away, remember?
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, about this whole, eat the rich. I mean, that was a P.J. O'Rourke novel that was a parody. Now it's literally the policy position of the left. But what's interesting, too, is and Megan McArdle made this point after this comment from Jill Filipovic, who's a leftist. She basically said, Jill and I used to have, the difference between Jill and I used to be a right-left difference. Now it's a normie. Now we're on the same side because it's normie versus crazy. Jill Filipovic writes about the "Rich Don't Play by the Rules, So Why Should I" podcast. This is her words, a woman of the left. The whole interview just makes me incredibly sad. It's a total breakdown of any moral code, sense of personal integrity, commitment to public good. Like, what the blank? You would steal priceless works of art from the public in order to enrich yourself because socialism. She really goes after this from a left perspective, which is, I guess, something to grab onto.
Well, that's right. And, one of the projects that we've been working on, liberate Cuba. By the way, do you remember when, this is probably 15, 20 years ago, when all the journalists went to Cuba and look at the great health care they have in Cuba.
Oh, yes.
Look how
Hassan Piker was one of them. Yeah, Hassan Piker and Code Pink. I mean, they were on that. Cuba's in the dark, and they're singing the praises of Cuba.
Exactly. So my point is that here, if we liberate Cuba, and I think Trump, and I'm not talking about a military invasion. I'm not talking about a Bay of Pigs, but just make Castro an offer he can't refuse. I mean, that country would go from being desperately poor within a generation to be one of the richest countries in the world. So why did they embrace these idiotic ideas? The people who are hurt the most in Cuba are exactly the poor people who are supposed to benefit from socialism. They're the people whose lights don't come on. They're the people who barely have enough to eat. So where does it work? I don't know. They always talk about Sweden, but even Sweden's turning away from socialism now. The only place that's turning towards socialism are the blue cities of America.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to hear Hassan Piker and his two collaborators on this New York Times podcast. Just because you haven't heard it yet, you should hear it.
Listen to this. It makes me cringe when I.
I know,
Go ahead.
You should hear it, and we played it yesterday and talked about it, but people should hear it again. You can't hear it too much. This is a guy who has, 1 million plus followers on his ridiculous, profane, idiotic streaming show. Take a listen.
I'm pro-piracy all the way. Like, across the board. Would you pirate a car? Yes. If you could. If one could pirate
a car.
It was just a classic thing back in the day where the government-funded anti-piracy initiatives would be like, dude, would you steal a car? I'm like, yeah, sure. If I could get away with it, if it was as easy as, pirating IP, I would do it.
Would you dine and dash from your local diner?
Never. Except 35%. Mike's, come on.
No, I wouldn't do that. And if I saw somebody doing that, I'd probably pay for their meal.
Yeah. Would you steal a book from the library?
Never.
No.
Would you steal from the Louvre?
Yes.
I would not be logistically capable of executing such a fact, but would I cheer on every news story of people that I see doing it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's cool. We gotta get back to cool crimes like that. Like, bank robberies, right? Stealing priceless artifacts, things of that nature. I feel like that's way cooler than the 7,000th new cryptocurrency scheme that people are engaging in.
You know what we need, Steve, is more bank robberies.
Yeah. No, it's cringeworthy to listen to that, and this is the kind of new moral code of too many on the left, and it gets dangerous. I mean, I always harken back to those Batman movies with I don't know if you remember the one with Bane, and he's like taking over the city, and they start hanging all the rich people in the city.
Yeah,
it's a very dangerous trend when you hear someone who has. And by the way, the women were giggling when he was saying that.
Oh, yeah. Well, right. The one who said, oh, no, I would never steal a library book. She talked about how she steals from Whole Foods because that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
this is what you're dealing with. Yes.
Well, what it's called? It's called Robin Hood, and that's their new ethic.
It's called Robin in the Hood. Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
We'll talk to you later. He joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560. The Answer.